All right, for more on the CBN's MPC meeting, we're now being joined on the news at 10 by the CEO of Financial Derivatives Company Limited, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, as we discuss the decisions reached at that meeting. Mr. Rewane, thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so the latest development, MPC, that's the CBN's MPC under the leadership of Olayemi Cardozo, the CBN governor, has now raised the MPR by 400 basis points to 22.75% from 18.75%. Of course, we all know the situation with our economy, but let's start by finding out, or should I ask you generally, from the outcome of the decisions reached at this meeting, what should we be expecting, going forward for the Nigerian economy, especially regarding issues like inflation, a rising cost of living, and of course the exchange rate?
Let's put some context here. This is the largest increase in interest rates ever in the history of the bank and Nigeria. I call it the audacity of monetary policy. Don't forget that the last meeting we had was in July last year. That's about 7-8 months ago. So one, cumulative, clearing the backlog and then preparing yourself for the future. But the context here is that there's a crisis of confidence and a crisis of scarcity. And therefore, 4 things are scarce in Nigeria, very scarce. There's a shortage of dollars, as you can see there. There's a shortage of electricity. There's a shortage of food. And most important, there's a shortage of truth, right? So this combination of shortages is leading to the discontent which you saw in the streets today. And people can only take it for so long, right? So they need dollars, they need electricity, they need food, and more than anything else, they need the truth. So what was it? In the last 20 times, 20 meetings, 10 times status quo, 8 times, 9 times increases, and 1 time there was nothing, right? Now, in fact, 1 time they reduced the rate. So how does this interest rate increase improve the supply problem? In a way, yes, because it reduces the propensity to consume and increases the propensity to save. What is saved is now invested. So what has been done? The central bank came out clearly to say, this is what we are, and we're going to keep our eyes on the ball. That's what I said. 20 meetings, 10 times status quo, 9 times increase, and 1 time down. Cumulatively, in July 2023, the power market rate was 7.99. It got all the way to 19.15, and the NAFEM rate is actually 1,778. But guess what? Today, the power market rate went down to 1,530, and as a matter of fact, people are buying at 1,490, coming down all the way from 870 7 months ago. So that's movement in the right direction. Now, what have we done? We've seen inflation come to 29.9%, while interest rate on treasury bills went up to 22.75. There's still a negative carry here. So the marginal propensity to save will have to reduce, marginal propensity to save will have to increase, marginal propensity to consume will have to actually go in the other direction. So why tighten so much? What kind of inflation do we have? We have an inflation, what we call, in 2015, it was 9%, and that was high inflation. In 2018, it was 12%. We call that spiraling inflation. And then by 2024, we have what we call galloping inflation. What we don't want is to go into hyperinflation. It's a 19-year high, and food inflation is at 35%. So people are under pressure. They are hungry, they're angry, and they're irritable. And they are becoming desperate. A desperate man is a dangerous man. So what do we want to do? We see that in 2025, it will moderate and begin to come down and soothe nerves. Now, what does this mean? There are 4 factors that are leading to high inflation. Number 1 factor is the exchange rate, 50% pass-through. Number 2 is money supply, 93.7 trillion naira. That's 25% effect. Then supply chain disruption and other factors, 15%. Fuel price is 10%. So if you solve the money supply problem and solve the exchange rate problem, you've knocked off inflation. But guess what? In Q4, this was a basket. Food inflation was 35%. Non-food basket was 23.5%. So the real culprit here is food inflation. Now, how does this? So is this move enough to reduce inflation? Partly. Is it It's a necessary but not sufficient condition. Policymakers will still scratch their heads. And the next meeting is exactly 4 weeks from today. We'll wait and see what happens. Now, how does it affect you in the price basket?
Especially the common man on the street.
Now, a bag of rice in December was 70,000. Currently it's 78,000. By April, we think it will be 80,000 naira. A bag of beans was 50,000. Currently 68,000. It goes up to 70,000. Tomatoes is at 30,000. It goes up by 100% to 60,000. Bread from 1,200 is now 1,500. Yam 2,500 to 3,300. Guess what? The big coup here is the eggs. The eggs, one egg is now 160 naira. It's now, we expect it to go to 5,000 naira. What happens? Because next month you have Ramadan fast and you have the Easter.
Easter, that's right.
So what is going to happen? Impact on you, go back again. First, so you immediately, some things are going to change. Medical tourism is going to reduce. School fees, international school fees will increase. That's what it is. School fees increase, medical tourism increase. Airfares, it's now 2.4 million naira Lagos-London return. Abuja is 500,000 naira return premium economy. Your rent will go up by over 100% and your transfer fares are going to stay high. So some difficult days, I had some slight more pain before the gains come. Now, what happens next? Right? We think that during Ramadan, people eat once a day. But we found out the data shows that that one meal is more than 3 meals previously. So basically, we expect prices to increase during Ramadan and during the Easter. So what do we see? Commodity prices will remain elevated during the festive period. Interest rates will increase, right? And stronger transmission mechanism. The naira begins to appreciate, and the stock market goes into correction and bear territory. We expect the stock market to continue to be negative for the next 1 or 2 weeks. So that, you can call that a buying opportunity, but let me tell you, this situation is a wake-up call. The government and the policymakers will either have a wake-up call where they do the things right, or they will have what Bob Marley described as a natural mystic, which says that this may be the first trumpet, it might as well be the last. What happens after that? Check out what Bob Marley said. Thank you.
Mr. Bismarck, we thank you so much for your thoughts on the news at 10.